Costa Rica means rich coast in Spanish.
Is it true that Columbus was the one who came up with the name?
Your guess is as good as mine. But it is true that Columbus landed his ships near Limon back in the age of exploration. He wrote in his diary that when he landed, the indigenous showered him with gifts of gold. Hence the name. It sounds a little strange to me. There's no way they could find that much gold in Costa Rica.
Columbus originally set sail in search of the legendary land of gold. Maybe he was just nuts about the stuff.
Costa Rica is rich enough without it. Look at the forests and the animals and the peace-loving people. That is what I want to protect.
I know how you feel.
Democracy took root in Costa Rica before anywhere else in Central America. Sure, we had coup and dictators and all, but never a total meltdown. That is, until 26 years ago.
The Civil War. Yeah. I understand you lost your grandparents.
It started with a dispute over alleged fraud in the presidential election. What I do not understand is why friend turned against friend, when they could have talked it out instead.
Yeah, that would have been nice.
Even today, some buildings still have bullet holes from the Civil War. A quarter century later, and it is a tragedy we Ticos cannot forget, must not forget. It was the year after the Civil War that the army was constitutionally abolished. A new president was elected this year, President Otabar. He seems to be distancing himself from the United States. He has limited the privileges granted to American banks, lifted the sanctions on Cuba. Our last president was so pro-US, people suspected he was in bed with the CIA.
You think the CIA is doing this because it feels threatened by the president's shift in policy?
It is possible, but would they really bring in such a huge army just because of that?
Part of our job is finding out.
Exactly. Thanks, Snake. Peace.
So, are you a student at the University for Peace, Paz?
No, I am still in high school. But Professor Galvez lets me visit his office and study with him every now and then. International law, security, conflict resolution, human rights. We study all these subjects and then use them to build the foundations of peace.
Yeah, I get it. I just never heard the UN had a University for Peace before.
Oh, that. Well, to be precise, it is still being set up. They have started conducting research, but the UN has not passed the necessary resolution yet. Professor Galvez couldn't wait that long.
Oh, right.
Costa Rica abolished its army and has also hosted the Central American Court of Justice. It is the perfect place to build a university like ours. Don't you think?
That coffee you guys brought us is pretty damn good.
Isn't it? Costa Rican coffee is the best. The Central Basin has all the right conditions for growing coffee. It is high in elevation, with steady temperatures and well-drained volcanic soils.
The professor certainly seems attached to it.
The coffee we drank on the boat coming over was awful. It put him in such a terrible mood.
Well, how come I never hear about Costa Rican coffee then?
Because it gets bought up by wholesalers and mixed with beans from other countries. It is really a shame. Such wonderful beans, and nobody knows they are from Costa Rica.
Huh. They should launch an ad campaign or something.
Right. I hope one day people will recognize Costa Rican coffee for what it is.
I'm with you there. Paz, you said Costa Rica has no army, right?
Correct. Article 12 of the Constitution declared that the Army as a permanent institution is abolished. It does permit us to organize armed forces for national defense based on inter-American treaties.
Only temporarily, then.
In effect, yes. But in the years since the Constitution took effect, Costa Rica has not once raised an army.
Paz, how does your country defend itself without an army? Especially in a rough neighborhood like Central America.
With the right kind of diplomacy. If we live up to our ideals and earn the respect of other countries, the international community will support us. The 2 times Nicaragua actually did invade, the conflict was resolved diplomatically under OAS auspices.
Doesn't that leave you depending on the U.S. after all?
American influence is unmatched, it is true. San Jose was critical of American policy at the time, but America supported us all the same. It was because we practiced peaceful diplomacy. That is what I like to think.
That's one way to approach it, sure. But there are countries out there who will use force no matter how bad it looks.
Maybe so. I know my way of thinking probably looks naive to you, but it is not like we expect peace without working for it. Diplomacy is a battle in itself, and we have to make the effort to seek out causes of misfortune and nip them in the bud. It was that kind of thinking that got me trapped in their base.
I'm not blaming you. You haven't done anything wrong.
The army was abolished 25 years ago, the year after the Civil War. I learned about the sorrow of civil war from a very young age, the futility of countrymen fighting each other, and the tragedy. Costa Rica learned the hard way. That is why it abolished its army. It decided to pour its efforts into education instead. More teachers than soldiers was the slogan.
Education is essential, no question. Even Che used to teach reading and writing in between guerrilla campaigns.
Costa Rica was poor at the time. We did not have many resources. I suppose we had to pick one or the other. The military or the schools.
Kaz was telling me Japan has a peace constitution too.
That is right. Apparently, when Costa Rica was drafting its constitution, they looked to the Japanese as a model. Only, Japan's constitution renounces war itself.
Unlike Costa Rica.
But Japan has a self-defense force, right? That I do not get. I think I will ask Mr. Miller about it next time I see him. He said he used to be in the JSDF.
Huh. You're a curious one, are you? Don't study too hard. What was that you were saying? Peace is not the natural state of men? You said you learned it in school.
That is right. They are the words of the German philosopher Immanuel Kant. In 1795, he wrote a book titled Perpetual Peace. Kant argued that it is precisely because peace is unnatural that we have to make it ourselves.
How?
That is what his book is about. Is the concept starting to sound interesting now?
Not really. I belong in a more natural world.
Is that so? My grandparents died in the Civil War. If only we had been at peace, they would not have lost their lives. You actually wish for war?
It's not like I want to hurt innocent civilians, but if someone attacks you, what are you supposed to do? A country needs the strength to defend itself. Otherwise it faces invasion, oppression, political subjugation.
If they would simply stop using force to tangle with each other, countries would not need force to defend themselves.
And how would you guarantee that?
Sorry,
but you have to understand how the world works in order to protect the ones you love. That's not to say ideals aren't important too. They are.
You are right, Snake. Thanks. Peace. Costa Rica's forests are more diverse than you might expect. Not all of them are tropical rainforests. Costa Rica is close to the equator, it is true, but it is also very mountainous.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Go up 4,000 feet in elevation and the temperature drops more than 7 degrees.
There are basically 3 types of forests. The lowlands are covered in tropical rainforests, the highlands by tropical cloud forests, and areas where there is a dry season have tropical dry forests. The lowlands along the Caribbean coast are mostly covered by hot, humid tropical rainforests, what most people envision when they think of jungle. The closely packed trees spread their branches out at great heights to soak up the sun. Their shade makes it dark near the ground, so be careful. Of course, with so little light, few plants can grow on the ground, so it might actually be easier to walk.
So even if you could photosynthesize, it wouldn't do you any good.
Photosynthesize? People cannot do that.
Most people, anyway.
Costa Rica is said to have about 87,000 species of living things. That is about 5% of all the known species in the world.
A tiny place like this? Huh. I'll be damned.
I want to protect that biological diversity. When diversity is lost, the environment weakens. Just look at the plantations.
I think I know what you mean. It's like trying to assemble a unit from similar guys. It usually doesn't work out. Throw a few square pegs in there and everything falls into place.
There are so many species here that a lot of them have not even been classified yet. I am hoping I can help do that someday. Kind of like a parataxonomist.
Say that again?
Parataxonomist. Someone who helps a taxonomist.
Oh. Huh. I thought you were going to say it had something to do with parachutes.
You're weird. The Development Corporation of Costa Rica, or CODESA, was established 2 years ago. Since President Odubor was elected this year, the state has been putting a lot more effort into development.
The corporate state, so to speak.
Growth is good and all, but there is one thing that bugs me.
What's that?
I cannot help but wonder whether CODESA is not just a front for the CIA.
You mean what the professor was saying about the CIA mercenaries posing as security guards? They were using CODESA as camouflage?
I am worried that development is going to destroy the forests, but I do not suppose it has anything to do with this. My mother was the one who named me Paz. She said it was an expression of her wish that the country stay at peace. It is a pretty common name in Central America. My mother always used to tell me, never make war. Always help keep the peace.
I remember. Your grandparents.
Yes. They died in the Civil War. I think that is why my mother hated war so much.
That's another thing you've got in common with Kaz. His mother named him Peace, too.
See, because Japan also suffered through war. I think I know how Mr. Miller's mother felt.
You like the peace sign, huh?
See, as a gesture, it connects every peace-loving person. Here, you try it, Snake. Peace.
No thanks. It doesn't suit me.
Too bad for you.
You know, the V in the peace sign comes from the V in victory. When did it start standing for peace?
I am not completely sure, but I guess it came out of the protest movement against the Vietnam War. Oh, and do not turn your hand around when you do it, especially around British people. It is insulting.
So, you live alone now?
No, not alone. I've been living in school dormitories since I started junior high. After my mother died, my relatives took me in, but they were not my real family.
You didn't fit in there.
In a way. My aunts were kind to me and all. But I know how difficult it must have been to suddenly have a child thrust into their lives. When you live with someone, there are no secrets. I could tell my being there was a burden on them.
Sounds like a rough childhood.
I would not say that. I was lucky just to have people take me in. There are huérfanos living out in the streets because their mothers died. It is even worse in countries with frequent civil wars. So, who am I to complain about my childhood?
You're a pretty tough kid, you know?
Not at all. I am not strong at all. Playa del Alba means Beach of Dawn. The morning sun is so beautiful over the Caribbean.
Beach of Dawn, huh? Perfect place to start a mission.
The clear blue water, the white sand, the swaying palm trees. You cannot get more South American than here. It is paradise on earth.
Yeah, guess I should have packed my Hawaiian shirt.
The coral reefs and mangrove forests protect the small fish in the area. Sea turtles come to lay their eggs on these beaches. We are not the only ones who enjoy this place. It is heaven for more than just humans.